Wake up. We're at grandma's. Oh, baby. Hi, babies. Tell me about your Monday. I got all clean for you. Isn't that something? How unusual of me. Hi, Heather. Hi, Siltree. Hello, Heather. Heller. I always do that. Back to back. Heller, Heather. It's a good tongue workout at the beginning. That's what's needed, I think. As if I haven't spoken enough today. Me! Did you, Heller, did you check out Perry Bible Fellowship? I would have thought, I was surprised actually, I would have thought you were already familiar with Perry Bible Fellowship.
Hi, Helen!
If that was new to you, I am so pleased to have been the one to give you that catalog to marvel at and rifle through. Helens assemble! I think, yeah, most impressively to me is like his dynamic range of art style. Like he'll go from like these rough watercolor pin and ink situations to something much more, not to suggest that what I just described is not complex, but something much more robust and much more complex. And like he'll go from more like a rough kind of cartoony looking aesthetic to something that looks like a Renaissance painting. Guy's talented. And he's got some collaborations here and there, but for the most part, like, most of the stuff's, it's all him. If anybody hasn't the foggiest what I'm referring to, I'll pull it up for us. Some of the comics can get a little dark, in a good way. Like me. And it's exactly that. It's like a webcomic series, but you can buy physical prints. The newest comic strip he has up is maybe analogous to ADHD. I don't know. Let's see. Shall I share it? So outside of this, light news day, huh? Where is Lefty screen? Well, Lefty screen, there it is. Maybe that's mostly visible. Let's see, Control P, can make that a little larger. Okay, good. First panel. To do, gym, laundry, clean, prep, huff, huff, huff. To do, gym, call, cook, bank, huff, huff, huff. Scroll down. She's an Etch-a-Sketch. Forgot the to-do list, so... brunch? Can relate. I think I'm gonna jump to one of my favorites, though. So what Heller saw in the background of one of my photos... let's see, can I search within his... Yes, okay. Find the comic. Punchbout. Punchbout. I've got a print of this one. And it was really cool the way it worked out. So I've got another print that a friend had gifted me because he met the artist at like a comic book shop in Austin, Texas. And he got it for me as like a object that I can look at and it kind of cheers me up, and it works very well. I'll show you after this. But I had posted that I got it framed, and then the artist saw it because I tagged him, and we had a little back and forth, and then he asked if I wanted a signed copy of this print. So it was an emphatic, resounding yes. I needed. OTG, good to see you. There's more to this, and I'm like hovering on this panel. But kid, you look like you're ready to take on the world. In reference to Punch Out. I feel ready. Ding, ding, ding. Ooh. Yeah, there's the whole thing. So I've got a print of that, and it's wonderful. And then he signed it. I think the other one that I was sent first was called Lord Gloom, maybe? Yeah. So I've got the print for this one is literally above my like workstation here. So if I'm ever a little bummed, I can look right up and kind of remember one of my besties got that for me. But this whole thing, Lord Gloom, you have a visitor. And you know, last panel. I saw a smile. This is what got me, the clenched fist and the face. Everybody's got one. The friend who will do something similar. They know how to get you. The friend that bought me that's the friend that's pretty capable of, no matter how committed I am to swimming in the doldrums. He's very fucking funny. He does a really good job of unsticking me. But there's a lot to rifle through. Horny clouds. Let's see, does it just randomize if I keep clicking? It might just randomize if I keep clicking. Doomsday, world to end tomorrow. Straight to the comics section. He's got some pretty thought-provoking ones too, and there's some silly ones, but some very thought-provoking ones too. About the origins of the universe, that sort of thing. Hey, jerk, you know what it feels like to have your head stepped on? It hurts a lot. And more. There's more for you here. A quick aside. All right, so I think the biggest news today was Trump sharing an AI video about med beds. No, it probably wasn't that. Biggest news in my feed today was EA's acquisition, the most expensive acquisition, potentially, at least on record, by the Saudis and Jared Kushner's investment firm and the Affinity Group. Private backers associated with the U.S. acquisition of TikTok. So all the best players potentially involved in the acquisition, all the most earnest, operating in good faith, not data harvesting type of persons associated with the EA's purchase. So the good news is we can rest assured that it's the company and all of their properties are in good hands. And if you didn't see that, perhaps I'm sharing that with you now for the first time. I doubt that I am. Did I have a tab for that? I thought I had a tab for that. Let's do some tabs. Let's see, we've got the Wayback Machine. I was ready. I was prepared for stream and I was ready and I had all my tabs organized and yep. And it's my first stream, so it's okay. I like the summary of the bullet points. The TL didn't read version. Saudi Arabia's PIF, private investment firm. Kushner's Affinity Partners, Silver Lake. Oh, Silver Lake's what I was confusing with the... Silver Lake was their company for associated with the U.S. acquisition of TikTok, which, by the way, get the fuck off TikTok. It will no longer be a safe place for community organization. Existing EA shareholders to receive $210 per share, 25% premium. EA's portfolio, crucial in industry downturn. Saudi Arabia claims to diversify economy with gaming investments. Of course, that's the purest motivations. Electronic Arts has agreed to sell itself to a group of private investors. And a deal that values the maker of Battlefield, Madden NFL, and most importantly to me, The Sims, which if completed would be the largest leveraged buyout in history. Saudi Arabia's private investment fund, Jared Kushner's affinity partners, and private equity firm Silver Lake came together to buy the popular video game maker with a combination $36 billion in cash, equity already held by PF, and $20 billion in debt financed by JP Morgan. I think it's a key ingredient to that. They're borrowing a large amount of cash to see this through. I might need to resize that, huh? Music playing now always makes me want to play more Coffee Talk, which there is another Coffee Talk on the way. Remember when we used to wind down streams, like the last hour of stream, we would do chapter 2 of Coffee Talk, and it was so soothing, it was so pleasant. As we've done chapter 1 and 2, and the next one is going to be based in Japan. I think there'll be a couple of familiar characters returning. Namely, I think the barista is going to be the same. Let's see. For the PIF, Saudi Arabia's $1 trillion wealth fund, the investment is a massive opportunity to push ahead with efforts to become a global hub for games and sports. As it bets on the enduring value of blockbuster game franchises, the industry recovers from prolonged downturn. And we're talking about diversifying interest. Wasn't Saudi government already involved in, like, WWE? EA deal waves green flag on sponsors resuming mega deal transactions following several years of fishing for opportunities down the market due to market headwinds such as higher borrowing costs. EA shareholders will receive $210 in cash and a premium of 25% over the September 25 closing price. The 210 is including the 25% bolstering of the final closing price. Giving an equity value of $52.5 billion according to Reuters calculations. The company's share rose 5% midday trading, about $202.54 per share. The take offer comes at a crucial time for EA, which in banking heavily on its core sports portfolio. They're about to release Battlefield 5. But its core sports portfolio and action shooter intellectual property to weather a sluggish video game industry as gamers get picky with spending. I don't know, gamers, are we picky with spending, or do we just not want to spend $70 on a AAA title that potentially may not be finished, and then, you know, a $10 to $20 increase in gaming prices, while most people are not, across the board, seeing an uptick in their take-home revenue. I don't know. What could it be? Why we're tending to opt for, you know, $20, $30 indie games over that? To that end, most of the indie games are usually more replayable to me. At least the indie games that come to mind. The ones that end up like BAFTA type nominees, you know. I was excited for the Switch 2 until I found out the game price. Yeah, that's part of it. That, and like with the Switch, you know, Nintendo's trying to normalize consumers not owning anything. So like Nintendo is one of among the larger parties doing some pretty gross shit as it relates to like commanding ownership of their IPs and then trying to co-op others, like more recently like Evolution from like Pokemon, saying that other entities can't have that same type of character progression or change, which wouldn't hold up to me. But then other things like normalizing not owning, you know, physical media. You know, you can't preserve physical media if you don't own it, but then I think their concern, which also ties directly into their overreach, is trying to protect their babies from some sorry little fan out there making a fan make, like Kaizo Mario. Ooh, bad. Nintendo can't make money off of that. Or you know, whatever mod that you might see. Mario with the shotgun. Oh no, that devalues their brand and bastardizes their pure-hearted little plumber. I think sometimes Nintendo forgets that they kind of, and I know a lot of art is comprised of taking inspiration, borrowing ideas and concepts from others. That's part of just creating art. I get that. But if you look at the origins of Nintendo and what they launched with, Donkey Kong in arcades, like they borrowed heavily from an existing property, Popeye. If you compare the original arcade Popeye to Donkey Kong, you see a lot of blow for blow, not plagiarisms, but very similar mechanics. And that didn't, stifle their growth whatsoever. Or for that matter, Atari's. But in any case, the most standout concern for me for not getting a Switch was just having like a game card. Like I just did you know about that, Heller? Like just getting a game card? I don't know. I need to talk to like Tug about this. Tug actually bought a Switch too. He's the only person I know that bought one. Maybe Zombie Phoenix bought one. But the idea of like it removes the sense of like repair, it removes the sense of being able to trade later unless you pay extra to like lease extra copies to like your household or friends or whatever. Or I've heard the rhetoric kind of comparing, the game cards, like the digital download cards basically to like a coupon. Like you're getting a gaming coupon. Which I don't know. I would say I don't expect that to last because of consumer opposition, but I don't know that consumers will win out on this. This is when is really Nintendo backpedaled on anything. Outside of this, so I want to find the video for this because this was in my feed and it's another thing that I saw with like, I was kind of incredulous when I saw it. I was like, disbelief, is this more liberal slop? This is more liberal slop posting. I guess it is and it isn't. Trump shares an apparent AI video promoting medbed conspiracy theory. I had no idea medbed conspiracy theory existed, but hey, there's 1,001 other conspiracy theories I didn't know existed, but this one is evidently tied to QAnon, who shoveled like Pizzagate our way, and rumors of online furniture stores involved in child sex trafficking and more. Like January 6th. I need to see if this is on YouTube. President Trump on Saturday shared an apparently artificially created video of himself promoting a cure-all bed with its origins in conspiratorial corners of the internet. The video, which has since been deleted, was intended to resemble a Fox News segment on the show hosted by the president's daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, featuring an AI version of Trump promising new medical technology. The segment has never aired on the network. Here's the thing, when I saw this, I was like, did Trump actually think that he was in this? Did he just convince him? Like, he's so... I don't think it's a memory concern. I think it's grandiose narcissism. Yeah, I probably did that. I have so many meetings I can't even keep up, but it was probably one of the best meetings I've ever done about medbeds. Medbed's great. Like, I'm loosely convinced that he thought he really did that. But this is the same guy who shared an AI video about, like, the reformed Gaza Strip, after all of the blood has been buried in the sand. Jared Kushner and all of their cohorts, their reformist colonialist dream is to prop up a bunch of condos and homogenized resorts type of slop that would end up there. That's the kind of the reformist dream. Trump had shared at one point an AI video, like a rendering of that same thing, because it was also paired with like an AI created song, singing Trump's praises. Trump Gaza #1, ha 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 ha. And like, it would be funny if that weren't the vision, right? You remember yesterday we were talking media literacy? This is one of those disappointing things where like our sitting president, highest appointed public office, seems to have none. Media literacy, for that matter. The medbed conspiracy theory has spread during recent years in QAnon circles and is a modern manifestation of an older tradition of belief in quack doctors. Once again, don't get me started on homeopathy. And miracle cures is rooted in deep distrust of government and medical institutions. Which to me is like loosely tied into RFK and Dr. Oz's kind of connections with the wellness industry and homeopathy influencers. To wit, snake oil type salespeople, right? During America's UFO spotting craze beginning in the early post-World War II period, conspiracy theories emerged, and the US government had reverse-engineered technology from alien craft it had secretly retrieved to create advanced healing technologies. Cue medbed. Conspiracy theory that the government kept its healing technology secret and only provided cures to select elites played into a more widely held and still debated belief that the government was withholding information about UFOs from the public. The QAnon conspiracy theory movement emerged in 2017, and some of the circles have long believed Trump would make this available or would make this supposed secret miracle curing technology. In the artificial video Trump posted and then deleted, he touts the benefits of the supposed therapy. More rudimentary versions of the medbed technology are promoted and sold in New Age and holistic circles online. These vendors often make dubious and unproven promises about items they sell, like healing mats, med topper devices that are supposedly infused with magnetic and infrared technology. It takes your toxins out. You can overgeneralize toxins, you know? It's a form of detox. Mundetox. Welcome to Mundetox. You can overgeneralize toxins and make it sound nice and clinical and sciencey and peddle your wares. Let's see if we can find this. I don't want to lose that playlist though. I am surprised that it wasn't one of the first in the queue here. Do I have to wait for somebody else to introduce it? I don't know what the sun is. This looks like it's the whole video, maybe. It's the video interspersed with commentary. What are these places? Really American. USA Today trends. Yeah, I think I know what USA Today is. Trump's medbed video. You know what? Majority Report's probably the best place to go in this instance. Let's do that.
I don't know what this
Please,
is.
can I fill you in on
Well,
this?
we got beat to single payer.
So, med beds are apparently, I was reading up on this morning, a conspiracy theory in the QAnon community, or at the very least, it's been like AI generated misinformation that has spread amongst the internet slop,
Med beds.
brain poisoned MAGA world.
Truth seekers.
So now people are very anxious about their healthcare. We talked about this in the context of RFK Jr., what he exploits. People want to feel like they're in control of their healthcare because we have a for-profit system that extracts and kills people and literally lowers our life expectancy in this country. So people are primed to believe something like this, apparently even the president. So there are two options here. One, Trump knows that he doesn't have this magical med bed technology that looks like a tanning bed
Wait, what is
that can
med
fix
bed?
everything.
Okay, it's a medical bed.
It's a theory that it's a conspiracy theory about a potential technology that can cure everything up from to asthma to broken bones, which by the way, China is apparently coming up with a glue and working on it that could actually fix broken bones, but regardless, regrow limbs, they think, and cure cancer. and Trump tweeted out a video, an
Don't they
AI video
have-
of him.
Don't they have? I've seen like sci-fi movies where that does
Right.
exist.
Yes, but not in. But in the real world, it might exist if President Trump will bestow it upon us, because apparently, instead of focusing on things like Medicare for all, this cohort of like I don't know lead brain poison Trump supporters are more like content with being fooled by AI slop that makes it seem like eventually my healthcare problems will be solved.
Okay, keep in mind while this is happening, for those who don't know, there's a threat of a government shutdown because they can't pass a spending bill. The same bill that already passed the House, pending passing the Senate, for the big, beautiful bill that, if passed, would raise our collective insurance prices pretty significantly. So rightfully, like, yeah, if they can't agree to a deal, then they should shut down and drop kick that. But just the notion of like our healthcare being made further inaccessible because of ongoing exploitation, because capitalism works, right? For Trump to have like sent that out with something that sounds like free healthcare, because it would promote the well-being and longevity of everybody, med beds, to send that out while this is happening.
The basic idea is that we don't need pharma anymore because we have these fancy beds that can just fix everything
Sure.
And he's going to release these.
you do. Well,
So
yeah,
they're in development. They're
Yeah,
Area 51 stuff.
we're on the corner. And,
Okay.
I mean, it looks like
And
might be even closer.
so they're deploying Lara Trump to come out and talk
No,
about.
it's AI. Trump shared this. This is not a real video. Trump shared this. It's a fake Fox News segment about these med beds where he's in it. And there's two options. Either he was fooled
Wouldn't
by
this
it.
be great news?
Yeah.
Wait, when did I record this?
Right. There's two options.
All right, let's
he's
watch
fooled
it.
by
Let's
it.
watch it, and
Okay.
then you can explain
or,
what I-
right.
Okay, Sam had a similar take than I did.
Listen to how clear.
When did I record this?
Breaking now. President Donald J. Trump has announced a historic new healthcare system, the launch of America's first medbed hospitals and a national medbed card for every citizen.
Every American will soon receive their own MedBed card. With it, you'll have guaranteed access to our new hospitals led by the top doctors in the nation, equipped with the most advanced technology in the world. These facilities are safe, modern, and designed to restore every citizen to full health and strength. This is the beginning of a new era in American healthcare.
In this first phase, only a limited number of medbed cards will be released. Registration details will be announced very soon.
This is insane. And so wait, is that Lara Trump?
It's AI. It's all
No,
AI.
I know, I understand.
But that's
doesn't
Lara
it-
Trump.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and he retweeted this.
Posted it.
Is he thinking like, I don't remember doing this, but this is good?
Right.
Or it's just, Laura did another segment. I guess I'll retweet it.
There are two options.
Well, there's
Either
one other option.
he's dementia brain, doesn't remember anything, or he knows he's lying and doesn't care. Right?
Oh, well, you could just think.
All of the
that's
above. I said. It's all of the above. I had to share that. I can only laugh at it. Like, yeah, it's peak dystopian, but I can't help but laugh at it. Because it's like, once it, like 1984, the running gag with like 1984 is that it's speculative science fiction written as a cautionary motherfucking tale, not meant to be an instruction manual for the future. And yet, ta-da, here we are. Same thing with like Handmaid's Tale and Fahrenheit and well, I guess Vonnegut kind of gets referenced a few times in there, but you know what I mean. Like Philip K. Dick, Orson Scott Card, Orson Welles, like several authors, cautionary tales and not written instructions, yet here we are.
From scratch. You must first
Hello, Grams.
invent the universe.
Yeah, let's get I could down a 20-piece nuggie. Give me some dippies. Give me some dippies and some nuggies. If we're going down, I'm going down dipping some nuggies. With my, I'm dipping some nuggies with my homies. If we're going down, I'm going down dipping some nuggies with my homies. I think that's the way to do it. But no, what's the Schwarzenegger movie? Was it Total Recall? No, it's one of them. Is that what I'm thinking of? No. The Running Man. The Running Man specifically. What Total Recall was one of the Philip K. Dick stories that I'm thinking of. That was originally a short story. But what I'm thinking of is The Running Man, which is kind of like RoboCop. Like at a glance, doesn't look like it would be deep, meaningful, watch the fuck out kind of cautionary tale, speculative sci-fi. Yet it is. But the original Running Man, where again, speculative sci-fi, they're getting a sense of how AI, basically before we had a term for deepfakes would be created to blackmail somebody. And then the public with dogshit media literacy wouldn't be made to question that because of state-controlled media. I don't think we're quite there, but it is concerning. Stephen King wrote Running Man. I didn't know that. I like Stephen King the more I learn about him. Though I still question that one scene in It. You know the one. Running Man or Total Recall? It was Running Man. Thank you, Grams. Yeah, Nuggies, if we win and if we have the the Twitch homies meet up, I think Nuggies for everybody, or we can. I feign like I'm into the health and wellness shit. I still fuck with McDonald's like once a month. You got to entertain the inner child. Now that I'm an adult child, but all the same. Order up to my like mid to late teens would have been a QPC with at least a 10-piece nuggie. Want to hate, but I mean it's easy not to hate. It's engineered for taste. Plus we have nostalgia baked into our motivations. There's a social component. It's a guilty pleasure. Remember when people were making deepfakes for fun videos? Like, what if Stallone was in the Terminator? You're like, yeah, if it's used for entertainment purposes only and isolated to that, you can only hope. We got bad actors. We got bad actors out there. Worst of all, ones that don't know they're doing wrong because they think so highly of themselves. What am I talking about? Individuals perceiving their social status as higher tend to be worse at perceiving the emotions of others. Once again, research, potentially not surprising those of us with any form, semblance, or awareness of emotional intelligence. New research has found that individuals who perceive their own social status as higher tend to be worse at perceiving the emotions of other people. It's empathy. The study also reported evidence that self-assessed increases in social status over one's lifespan were associated with worse emotion perception as well. With us being highly social creatures, and we are social learners, interactions with other humans are crucial for our development. The core ability for having satisfying interactions with others, the ability to understand how others are feeling and what they are likely thinking. Some studies have indicated that empathetic accuracy, i.e. one's ability to identify and perceive the emotion of others, depends on one's social status. Social status is the relative position of a rank a person holds within a group or society. Throughout evolution, higher status meant better access to resources, mates, and protection. Which some of that like social hierarchy theory was debunked. Kind of think of like the Broheims who dig on the Andrew Tate type of Kool-Aid, who swim in the manosphere type of rhetoric, who endorse like the alpha beta male type of dichotomy, which is completely debunked, right? Because if you look at animal behavior and pack behavior with wolves, especially where they think they're pulling that from, they look out for each other. The wolves actually look out for each other. They don't abandon the wound end or treat their they're less abled with any sort of like human constructed or imposed type of social order. But with cognitive dissonance notwithstanding, you probably can't tell that to anybody of the manosphere ilk. But for those capable of higher thought, then you can get through to them. Lower social status, on the other hand, is linked to higher stress, anxiety, and feelings of exhaustion. So we tie that into just limited resource availabilities, because that's always going to increase our stress. Status shapes how individuals are treated by others, guiding respect, trust, and influence in social interactions. Recent studies have indicated that individuals of lower social status tend to rely more on their social perception abilities to guide their interactions with others. This is not surprising, as for those who possess relatively few resources, these cognitive social abilities to accurately tell how others are feeling and what they are thinking, are important for survival. On the other hand, there are views that better social cognitive abilities will allow a person to improve his or her status. I would say one key takeaway from that too are those who kind of have the kind of the dark triad type of personalities, the not quite necessarily the serial killer types, but those with personality disorders. You know, they're not by any measure unintelligent, but a large part of their wickedness is social manipulation. They are capable of knowing things like this while also kind of engineering social interactions to where, unless someone's pretty socially acute and attuned and agile, it's going to be difficult for them to not be at the mercy of their though masked charisma, you know. Meaning that some of this take with a grain of salt, because there's going to be people who use empathy as a weapon. Study participants were 1,197 U.S. adults recruited via Prolific. They were recruited to be fluent in English and have at least 98% of their previous Prolific submission approved. Participants' average age was 38 years, half were male, 74% were white, half declared themselves to be Democrats. Participants received $4 for their participation, with an opportunity to earn up $2 more based on their performance. Participants first completed 2 emotion perception tests, one examining their ability to perceive emotions of individuals, the Geneva Emotion Recognition Test. We'll take a look at that. And one examining their ability to perceive emotions of groups, the Ensemble Emotion Task. In the scope of the second task, they also completed a non-social perception task as a control condition. After completing these, participants answered a series of questions asking about their subjective and objective measures of social status and demographic information. Subjective social status was assessed using the MacArthur Subjective Social Status Scale, Subjective Social Class Scale, and Subjective SES scales. First of these showed participants a leader in, the first of these showed participants a ladder in which the highest rung represented the people who were best off. In this case, sounds like affluent, well-educated, and with better career prospects. And the lowest rung, those are worse off. Participants tasked to indicate the rung that corresponds to their situation. Objective measures of social status were where participants' answers to questions about income and education attainment, or were their answers about income, education, and attainment. The results showed that individuals who self-reported their social status as better tended to be worse at perceiving emotions expressed by individuals. However, I said expressed. I order an espresso, but I say expressed. However, this association did not extend the perception of emotions of groups to non-social perception. Study authors also report finding preliminary evidence that self-assessed increases in social status over the lifespan were associated with worse emotion perception. These patterns support the perspective that social status shapes emotion perception abilities, but importantly, this relationship depends on one's subjective sense of their status, both in comparison of others and in evaluations of one's own lifespan trajectory. The study sheds light on the links between social status and social cognitive abilities. However, it should be noted that the emotion perception task used in this study included making judgments about the emotions of people shown in pictures and not perceiving emotional states of real people. I think that'd be indicative of a potential flaw in the study, a weakness. Every study, you want to acknowledge the strengths and the weaknesses of. This is interesting because it's tied into, like, a theory of like social affluence. So the more affluent you are and the more insulated you are from resource insecurities, the more likely you would be to be less attuned to the struggling of like a lower class of persons. It's not the first time I mentioned this, but you remember the case of the kid from Alito, Texas, who was eventually jailed, who murdered, was guilty of vehicular manslaughter, drove drunk, underage. His attorney brought in a licensed psychologist to evaluate him, and then the licensed psychologist testified that the young man did not know the difference between right and wrong, and he literally thought that he could get away with drinking and driving because of his parents' wealth, because of their affluence, and then they dubbed the term affluenza. If you take that and a less dark example of that across the board to say people like Musk and Trump and Kushner and even the billionaires you might like Taylor Swift, they're potentially going to be less attuned to the hardships of the working class because they're far removed from them. I wouldn't fully go in on Taylor Swift because she works her ass off. But no one earns $1 billion, even if they work their ass off. Hello, Tell. Good to see you. And Tut? Tut, you might have been in for a minute, and I don't know if I said hi to you. Hi, Tut. It's good to see you, too. Bum 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 bum. Anybody familiar with this term? Phubbing. You familiar with phubbing? Have you been phubbing with your partner? For those coupled persons in chat, my guys, gals, and non-binary pals, for those in relationships of the romantic inclination, have you been phubbing? It's not as sexy as it sounds. I didn't know there was a term for this. I just referred to it as living in your phone. You live in your phone, being too distracted by this device. This warp zone of doom scroll and pleasure and a fucking fire hose of dopamine. A new study published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships suggests that when people feel ignored by their partners because of phone use, a behavior known as phubbing, told you it wasn't as sexy as it sounds, it can lead to a deeper sense of emotional disconnection. Specifically, the research indicates that individuals who perceive their partner as being distracted by their phone tend to feel more deprived of affection. This emotional gap, in turn, is linked with lower relationship satisfaction. Now, even within this, I would want to know, like, you know, what sort of neurotypes are we talking about who were surveyed within this survey? Do they already have, diagnosed or not, cognitive styles that may reinforce worried or anxious thinking, that might reinforce those anxious parts if there is a perceived, behavior that results in distance versus connection kind of thing, right? Sexy or not? No. I feel like if you add an L to that, like if you say flubbing instead of phubbing, flubbing becomes like something goofy but sexy. Somebody come up with a definition for flubbing. We'll take that on. But I think there's, the Gottman Institute gets into this a lot. The Gottman Institute's kind of like the foremost authority on like relationship management. But bids for connection, partners making bids for connection, they don't always know they're making a bid for connection. And it's not always eye contact or hand holding. It's down to like nonverbal skills, body language, proximity. But a lot of the time, making sure that they are heard and valued, right? And you too, that you are heard and valued, and don't get the Could you repeat that? Part of this, though, is, you know, it's one of those situations that can be explained by way of a cultural phenomenon, because a lot of us experience something that we were not really prepared to do. For one thing, we didn't evolve to really cognitively appreciate, by which I mean naturally manage devices like these, or do streaming. We didn't necessarily evolve for that. We created these at a faster rate than we have evolved. Therein lies the benefit of talking about how we manage these things, and digital hygiene, that sort of thing. But where I'm going with that, and what this references to, is, you know, us living through the pandemic and only having so much to do with how we occupied our time, also contingent upon your level of vigilance with how you lived through the pandemic. And not to suggest that COVID's gone anywhere, it's still around, it's still changing, right? But we're not on lockdown anymore, and we're talking here about kind of a social phenomenon of changing behaviors, kind of collectively. I'm trying to fill the gaps with our time and manage boredom and our interest and so many other things. So, like, increased phone use, increased use of digital technologies, media of all forms, you know, obviously skyrocketed at the onset and then throughout lockdown of COVID-19. The study was inspired by increasingly common experiences of couples feeling neglected because of mobile phone use, especially during conversations or shared time. Phubbing is the act of diverting attention away from a partner or in favor of a smartphone, such as checking notifications, scrolling through social media, or replying to messages while someone else is present. Surveys suggest that many people are affected by this behavior. Nearly half of Americans in relationships report that a partner has been distracted by their phone during a conversation. I will out myself. I've been guilty of that. Over a third say they are bothered by how much time their partner spends on their phone. Prior studies have linked phubbing to reduced intimacy and satisfaction, but few have investigated the specific emotional processes that might explain these outcomes. Tell has given us a definition for phubbing. Thank you. We are also accepting others. When you love someone through your phone, we love you. We love you. That's right. Phubbing can be sharing memes as a love language. Please share memes with me as a love language. And spamming the things you care about to people that you care about. Water. COVID-19 pandemic presented a unique opportunity to explore this issue. With stay-at-home mandates and social distancing measures in place, couples were spending more time together than usual, often with limited access to other sources of social support. We were kind of crowding over each other for a little while there. I imagine it was even harder to do that with mixed households and children around. We barely got by with just each other. Using emojis with your partner increases bonding. I like it. I would accept that without evidence. I would accept that without additional evidence to support. I'm into it. The study was part of a larger project our team conducted, exploring the ways couples were navigating the pandemic while living together. Like others, we noticed how much relationships were shifting in response to stress, isolation, and changes in daily routines during the pandemic. One of our team members was particularly interested in mobile phone use among couples, and we started wondering how the potentially increased time that people were spending on their phones, not just for distraction, but also as a necessary means for reaching out to others during lockdown, might impact their relationships. Couples were also dealing with new challenges like increased physical closeness. And to that, and like, I think of the way, like, if anybody's lived or traveled in like a very major city, like a very busy city like New York City, or somewhere where like public transportation is more widely utilized, and you think of social norms when you're getting on the metro or the bus or whatever else, because those persons are so accustomed to being around other persons, they kind of maintain their bubble, their identity, their proximity from others. They kind of maintain that sort of like self-connectedness and safety by having like a book or a paper in front of their face or a phone, just to give them at least some construct of removal from, you know, being crowded. Which at a glance can look like there's some form of like depersonalization going on there. I don't know if that's the word I wanted to use, but it can look like there's some form of like sort of social aversion happening there, and it's not really. It's just somebody kind of adapting to protect their peace, because somebody who behaves that way, kind of rigid and maybe stoic looking for, say, like a tourist, who's more of like a New York City native, you know, may appear that way at a cursory glance, but also may be like, you know, the GM for like a D&D campaign, like very highly social, you know. So there's a lot to this. I guess where I'm going with that is, as it relates to this study, you know, and then our behaviors adapting to being on lockdown and kind of crawling all over each other, so to speak, in our shared households, you know, we needed to find other ways, even social constructs, to give us some removal from each other, because even if you're with the love of your life and you have the strongest bond and secure attachment, that sort of thing, you still need independent play from each other and independent learning from each other. Let's see. Study involved 51 couples for a total of 102 individuals who were living together during the early months of the pandemic. So not a huge number. Participants were recruited from 3 major cities across the U.S. between April and September 2020. To take part, couples needed to be living without other housemates and meet several health-related criteria. Most participants were in different sex relationships, but same-sex couples were also included. Participants completed an initial survey assessing 3 main factors: how much they felt their partner phubbed them. Stop phubbing me! You're phubbing again. Honey, you're phubbing again. Honey, we need to talk about your phubbing. Please. It sounds so gross! Phubbing was measured through questions such as whether a partner glanced at their phone during conversations or checked their phone during pauses. I wonder how many of these were later diagnosed ADHD. I'm listening. I just seek constant reward. I listen. I can repeat everything you just said. There was just a lull in the conversation and I thought you were done. Excusable. Perfectly excusable. Affection deprivation was assessed with items that asked whether participants felt that they received enough affection, such as hugs. We love hugs. Hugs is good drugs. Smiles, or expressions of fondness. Do I express enough fondness for y'all? I hope I do. You're all wonderful. Relationship satisfaction was measured using a standard 7-item scale. Importantly, the researchers used a dyadic analysis approach, which allowed them to examine how one partner's experiences and perceptions influenced both their own outcomes and their partners. That's important. It allowed them to examine how one partner's experiences and perceptions influenced both their own outcomes and their partners. I might be reading too much into that, but that reminds me of a therapy modality called EFT, emotionally focused therapy. It's usually used for couples, and it helps them recognize and better command sensitive behaviors, because they may not realize how their behaviors are impacting their other partners, and thus like precipitating boil-over events that result in disconnection. And so to better preempt that and maintain connection without as many opportunities to seek repair, kind of thing. And even then, I'm bastardizing what EFT is, but it's just what came to mind. The main finding was that when people perceive their partner as frequently engaging in phubbing, they were more likely to feel deprived of affection. The sense of emotional deprivation was then associated with lower satisfaction in the relationship. In other words, phubbing seemed to harm relationships indirectly by making people feel emotionally neglected. The study also uncovered a significant partner effect. A person's own feelings of being affection deprived were linked not only to their own relationship satisfaction, but also to their partners. This suggests that emotional disconnection can ripple across the relationship, affecting both individuals. For example, if one person feels emotionally neglected, they may act in ways, perhaps becoming withdrawn or less affectionate, that ultimately reduce their partner's satisfaction as well. One of the big takeaways from this study is that when a person feels ignored by their partner, because they are more focused on their phone, it may make them feel less loved and cared for, and ultimately damage their relationship. Even if the phone use isn't intended to be hurtful, it can still create distance. These findings highlight the importance of being mindful of how we use our phones around loved ones, and especially in close quarters during stressful times. By creating mutually agreed upon boundaries around phone use, I think that's among the more prominent highlights. Discuss it. I think that goes for like any discomfort in any relationship. Don't fall to the cognitive distortion of mind reading and just assume that your partner knows something is wrong. If you notice discomfort, especially if there's a pattern, address it, call attention to it. It's worth discussing so that you have the opportunity to seek repair. Don't mistake discomfort as an opportunity to mend. For that matter, don't mistake discomfort as distress. I think that comes up in a lot of scenarios too, which I'm running the risk of overgeneralizing, but don't mistake discomfort as distress. Discomfort is critical to our learning and change when we need to. But facing discomfort in a relationship feels pretty vulnerable because you're opening things up to more feedback while you're vulnerable, and it can be hard to process that. But when you get to the other side of that, your connection is going to be more deepened because then you just survived. You've gotten out of that fight or flight state. You just survived and you didn't flee, overcoming a bit of a hardship with your partner. You came on the other side of that, and now you know you can do it again, and it becomes easier and easier. Interestingly, the study did not find that phubbing similarity, the degree to which both partners engage in similar levels of phone use, was associated with affection deprivation or satisfaction. This means that even if both partners used their phones frequently, it did not reduce the negative effects. Equal participation in the behavior did not appear to buffer against the feeling of being ignored or unimportant. I wonder if they're also taking into consideration, like, oh, I don't know, couples who stream, you know? Honey, your phubbing is scaring the children. And I didn't want to say this, but I think Lulu the dog, they know. They can sense it. Elmer Phubb. A new chatter, Elmer Phubb. Sid, that's one of the things my therapist. It's one of the things my therapist. That's one of the things my therapist talked about. Sorry, let me. 1 second. That's good brown. That's one of the things my therapist talks about. I forget the term he used for it, but it's the inner critic stuff that includes mind reading and stuff like global labeling. So there are a list of cognitive distortions that we can fall victim to, and it affects all manner of our behaviors and our willingness to be vulnerable in spaces. It all pretty much is connected to and kind of stemming from our sense of safety and vulnerability and our central nervous system and our midbrain limbic system. But when you get to like the higher, more cognitive systems where we can actually think about thinking and talk about those nice, pretty things like mindfulness practices, there's a whole list of cognitive distortions that include like black and white thinking and overgeneralizing, and mind reading is one of those that comes up in relationships a lot. And it's worth getting familiar with just from like a basic psychoeducation level. It's one of those things where I would encourage anybody, you don't have to be a therapist to have a therapeutic value in your own or someone else's life. There is a net benefit for your longevity and your security and connection with others to be mindful of and at least somewhat aware of cognitive distortions because it gives you a means to check in. There's also plenty of cognitive distortions that can be used. Like we're talking media literacy a lot recently. Cognitive distortions come up with that too. If you have those in your command, your ability to navigate the known world will become much improved. So says me. The study provides valuable insight into the emotional pathways through which phubbing can affect relationships, but it's not without limitations. The data was collected in a single point in time, which means the researchers could not determine the exact order of cause and effect. As always, correlation is not causal. It is possible, for instance, that people who are unhappy in their relationships are more likely to perceive their partners as disengaged, or the lower satisfaction leads to more phubbing, rather than the other way around. And I think that's worth considering too. There's always shades of gray. There's no black and white answer to what's going on here. That's what I was kind of calling attention to at the beginning of the study, was wondering what was the prior relationship satisfaction to the onset of like lockdown restrictions and pandemic, and before everybody was overcrowded and swimming on each other and adapting to isolation and stressors and everything that comes with that. But it's never too late to set oneself up for success, now is it? That said, the findings offer a useful snapshot of how mobile phone use, affection, and satisfaction are associated with one another during a particularly stressful time. Future research could address these issues by collecting data over time or conducting experiments where phone use is manipulated. Researchers also examine how conversations about phone use or agreements about when and how phones are used during shared time might reduce feelings of emotional neglect. Additionally, studies could explore how affection deprivation plays a role in other contexts, such as during long-distance relationships or periods of individual stress. I'd say a solution to a lot of this is gaming together. Use the screen time together and wisely. Use it to connect. I'll drop this here. I'll put these in the Discord too, so we can find them later. And I've got like a one sheet on cognitive distortions. I don't know, one sheet sounds fancy. It's just a summary of what those are. Oh, those are screenings and screenings. Cognitive distortion flashcards. We love them so. Actually, those I don't mind sharing. If we're connected on Discord, or if you're in the Discord, if I haven't already shared it like in a file there, if you need some like brass tacks psychoeducation, I probably have something I can share with you. Animated booklet. What if I saved this animated booklet? Oh, this is for kids. This is helpful for kids. And adult kids. Remind me later. Remind me later. Later's always good. You know, this is actually wonderful. I've got 2 of these. Let's see. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, boundary types. Tips for healthy boundaries. That might be complementary to what we just reviewed. Cognitive distortions. Here we go. It's been a while since we've run through these too. Let's see, can I do that? Yeah. Yeah. Oh wait, make that a little smaller and then... There, that should fit in the window. Can you see that well enough? Cognitive distortions, at least as defined here, are irrational thoughts that shape how we see the world, how we feel, and how we act. The good news is it's a cognition, it's not a behavior. So it's the action before we behave that it can influence that. So if we can bring awareness to it, then we can do something about it. It's the old adage, if you name it, you can tame it, mama. But a list of them here: magnification and minimization, exaggerating or minimizing the importance of events. You might believe your own achievements are unimportant, or that your mistakes are excessively important. Catastrophizing, seeing only the worst possible outcome of a situation. Overgeneralization, making broad interpretations from a single or few events. Example, I feel awkward during my job interview. I am always so awkward. Or overgeneralization can be used as a criticism that creates distance in relationships. You always leave your clothes in a pile on the floor. You never sweep. You always make me cook. You never drive. Now, are those cases always true, or is it something that has become a pattern that you would like to address? Why that type of verbiage is worth catching is because it puts the other person on the defense, making it less likely for you to achieve the desired outcome of actually solving the problem, because you've just introduced another one by shaming them. Don't do that. Magical thinking, the belief that thoughts, actions, or emotions influence unrelated situations. If I hadn't hoped something bad would happen to him, he wouldn't have gotten into that accident. If I wear a red sweatshirt today, all lights when I drive will be green. If I put my socks on inside out, I'm going to win the lottery. Things like that. Jumping to conclusions. If you want a copy of this, I'll give it to you. I'll put a fresh drop in the Discord. This is much cuter though. This is much cuter, and if you have littles, this can be helpful to share with them too. And this is a whole, how many pages is this? This is a whole. This is a whole, how many pages is this doc? It's just 7 pages, but it's presented like a little story. The fables of faulty thinking. But you know, for children and adult children alike, our experience as humans includes not just what happens to us, but also how we think about what happens. For example, if we see someone frowning, we might think they may not like me. This is likely... Excuse me. This is likely to make us feel upset or angry, but we could just as easily think, they must be having a bad day. Don't personalize things, right? Then we're then likely to feel sorry for them and even offer help. The same external event can affect us even in radically different ways depending on how we think about it. Our minds are wonderful things, but they often leap to conclusions or view situations in a negative light. And what it doesn't say here is that's because of a couple of reasons. We evolved to experience that because of a built-in survival mechanism referred to as our negativity bias. Negativity not necessarily meaning bad, but more likely to remember scenarios that we would want to avoid to promote our longevity than, you know, a more transient happy memory, less likely to be attached to our survival, that kind of thing. But as it relates to cognitive distortions, this, and we just reviewed them, this is another more easily digestible, accessible, and for this intention, important means to deliver to like a younger mind. And it covers a lot of the same things. You'll see some overlap with some of the cognitive distortions too, which is fine. It still ties into if you name it, you can tame it. Welcome in. Zana, are you in the right chat? Hi Zana, you're in Hogue Lyco's chat. I'm Hogue. We're doing a little lighthearted psychoeducation at the moment. You might have multiple tabs open where in the other tab y'all are talking films and media and your appreciation for them, and boy, good God almighty, do we love movies here too. Just want to make sure you're aware that you're chatting here and potentially not in another tab. If someone would like a copy of The Fables of Faulty Thinking, holla at me. I'll get that to you. Tell, I'm glad you asked, because that was one of the first things that came to mind. So magical thinking can be a component of distress tolerance that those that struggle with OCD have to manage. Same thing with like reality testing and more. I am still in need of increasing my understanding of OCD treatment. It's a diagnosis I'm familiar with. Treatment of, not as much. But they are more likely to experience a wealth of very overwhelming cognitive distortions that don't feel as easily challenged because of also, conversion of a perceived physical pain associated with not giving into that. What's the other one? It's like dilution. It'll come to me in a minute. But the short answer, yes. Yes, it is partially associated with OCD. I've thought all the time, if I tell people one thing is going to happen or it won't happen, I think the thing with the cognitive distortions is that I like about any of these is because we all have experienced each one of them at some point in our lives, or even all of them in the course of a day. They're not really kind of like we were talking about yesterday, the kind of the propensity to pathologize things and make them sound like, oh, this is wrong. In this case, it's more of a strengths focused. Oh, we all identify this because this is sort of like a social contagion. This is part of our learning style and how we interact with each other, and wrinkles we can overcome. It's a shared experience, a more common shared experience than not. I thought I was still screen sharing. There's one for me, should statements, believing that things should be a certain way. I really should do more bicep work. It's a picture of a gorilla in the mirror. And we say about shoulding. You start shoulding, you end up shoulding all over yourself on the floor. It gets pretty messy. When the festival in Vegas, I was so hyped for it got... Wait, then the festival in Vegas you were so hyped for it got canceled, and I was like, see what I tell you? Yeah, sometimes we get pretty good at forecasting. Like, a lot of the cognitive distortions come from how efficient our brains really are. Sometimes I've heard it said, our brain likes to take shortcuts. That's not really the case. Synaptically we take like the path of least resistance, but also the most familiar and what's accessible to us. But yeah, sometimes like that, we forecast, we try to predict an outcome, again, for like survival purposes. And then if that's reinforced, then it's sort of that validation, and maybe a touch of vindictiveness to get to that point of, I knew it was going to be like that. And then it may potentially reinforce negative forecasting going forward. Even so, not a totally problematic thing if it guides you to a good outcome. All of it's coming from a protective place. We just have to make sure that those cognitive distortions, and we recognize them if they're coming from a protective place. We also have to make sure that we have, put the thoughts on trial. Do we have evidence to support this belief? If not, then we can probably dismiss it. Tell it to scoot. Go on get. Poof. You don't belong here. Thank you for trying to warn me and keep me safe, but it's not necessary at this time. Dig. Hello, Collins. Collins, very good to see you. We've been again to have to take a break. I just realized we're coming up on our first ad break. Good for us. We're actually gonna play. We're actually gonna play tonight. We're actually gonna play Twilight Princess tonight. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna commit myself to action. We're gonna do it. We're gonna continue that. We're going pretty well. We wrapped up a couple of articles. Some things I didn't initially intend to discuss, but an article from Trump sharing an AI video on Saturday about med beds, leading into an article on Research about individuals perceiving their social status as higher also tend to be worse at perceiving the emotions of others, which I kind of tied to affluenza. Another article on affection deprivation as it relates to using phubbing. I'm still not used to saying phubbing. Phubbing being hyper distracted by your smart devices, thus disrupting connection with your partners and creating a need for relationship repair, which then segued into a conversation about exactly that, relationship repair, which then segued into conversation about cognitive distortions, which more or less brought us here. There's a solid recap of the last hour. I've done such a good job. Pat self on ass cheeks. I'm going to get more brown and take a break. I missed the medbed part? Oh god. Yeah, so it talked about it. I don't usually love... CNN is never my first choice for news, I'll have you know, but here's an article from CNN on it to kind of catch you up. It originated as a QAnon conspiracy theory, and it's not the first time Trump has, obviously endorsed that, as we can date his affinity for QAnon conspiracies all the way back to Obama's birth certificate, and then Pizzagate and more, right? Familiar with it thanks to the Knowledge First podcast? I don't know that one, but I could be. I'm doing amazing, sweetie, and as are you. Do you need to hear that? You're doing amazing, sweetie. It's there for you. They cover Alex Jones and related goobers. Oh, I like them already. I'm not a fan of bullying, but I am a fan of bullying bullies. You know what I mean? I live in the Majority Report. They covered the story pretty well too. We also love Collins.
Guilty as charged.
He's one of my very favorite people, and I'm glad he's here. All right. Streamer Tinkle Time, Stretch, Brown Refill, and I'm gonna say hi to my partner. They just got home from work pretty recently. And oh yeah. Pre-break preamble. Time to check in with your body meats and do a little somatic experiencing. Somatic being of the body. Bring awareness to your body. Check in. See where you've got a little tightness. Some tingles, perhaps, to turn towards. Give yourself a little movement. Fluff your butt cheeks where needed. Change your clothes. Put your piss jammies on if you need. Top off your food and drink. Take your PM medication if it's time for that. And I'll be back in about 3 minutes. I'm going to leave you some tunes to tingle by. When we get back, Twilight Princess. We'll be in the retro category. When we get back, we'll play Twilight Princess. Enjoy the tunes, and again, thank you for being, thank you for making me a part of your dopamine menu for the evening. You're wonderful. There's a Stream Deck over here. I just pushed it further back and I miskeyed. We're gonna try that again. Ta-da! Back soon, babies!